Welcome to the channel Learn with Danish. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. Welcome back, guys. Today we would be discussing about Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness central character, Kurtz. As such, in the last video we just had a brief introduction about Joseph Conrad and his works. Now, Kurtz is one of the anti-heroes that Joseph Conrad has come up with in his novellas. And he's a fictional character who trades in ivory. And he belongs to the European company who goes into the interiors of Africa and tries to civilize the African savage people. Right. So there are basically lots of influences in the creation of the character called Kurtz. He actually goes into an unnamed place in Africa with the help of the superior technology, that is Congo Free State basically. And he is a multi-talented man. He's a painter, he's a musician, he's a writer, and he's also a promising politician. And he starts out way before the novel begins. He's only introduced at his last minutes to the reader. And the reader is introduced to Kurtz through one of his painting. And the interesting fact of that painting is that it was a painting depicting a blindfolded woman, and she's bearing a torch against a nearly black background. So this particular painting is actually symbolic of his intention of civilizing the African savage people. And later on we see that he actually scribbles in his pamphlet by writing the words, "Exterminate all the brutes." So these two factors indicate the transition that happens in the mind of Kurtz. We see in the novel that Marlowe was also warned by the doctor when he enters the steamboat first that the changes happens from inside. So over the course of stay in Africa, Kurtz becomes really corrupted. He's brutal, he's savage, and at the very end he writes in the pamphlet like, "Exterminate all the brutes." So he also makes the natives to worship him. He has skull that's being hanged out of his station. These are all significant features of Kurtz. And when Marlowe sees Kurtz for the first time, he is ill with a jungle fever and he's almost dead. And it is Marlowe who actually takes Kurtz and puts him into his boat. And while he's traveling back to Europe, Kurtz dies on the boat with the last words. The last words of Kurtz was, "The horror, the horror." Kurtz was actually changed by the jungle. At first, he wanted to bring civilization to the natives, as his painting shows. He's a blindfolded woman leading in with a torch in a blind or dark place. That's impossible. Basically, that's not possible. That's what Joseph Conrad is actually trying to say, in which he gets criticism of writers like Chinua Achebe, saying that he is a bloody racist. And the changes that happen in Kurtz at the end clearly signify that he has turned into the same African savage that he hoped to civilize in the beginning. So there are many bases for Kurtz's personality. As such, I think almost there had been 5 influences by Joseph Conrad in bringing up this particular character. As the novel was written in 1899, the significant aspects that took place during that time played a great role in creating the character called Kurtz. Let us look at one by one. So there is a history of the Congo Free State that you should know, that I have mentioned in the first video. This Congo Free State was actually a colony of Belgium, and it became Belgian colony in 1908. So there is a book that is written by Adam Hochschild, and it is titled as King Leopold's Ghost. And it is Adam Hochschild who suggests that an administrator of King Leopold, Leon Rom, was the principal inspiration of the character of Kurtz. And why does he say so? Leon Rom is an administrator in King Leopold's Congo. Leon Rom, according to Adam, had gathered skulls in front of the station, just like Kurtz had gathered skulls in front of his station. So the first influence was of Leon Rom, the administrator. The second one is related to a leader called Edmund Musgrave Bartlett. Edmund Musgrave Bartlett was the leader during Emin Pasha Relief Expedition. Emin Pasha Relief Expedition was the expedition that was done against Sudanese Mahdist group during the 1880s, late 1880s. Edmund Musgrave Bartlett had become notorious during his disastrous command. And that is why, due to his brutal command over the Congo natives, that is why he is considered to be another significant influence upon the creation of what is the central character of Heart of Darkness, called Kurtz. And the third influence that he talks of is closest to Bartlett's associate slave trader, Tipu Tip. Tipu Tip is actually a slave trader who lived in Leopold's time. He was brutal in his slave trade business. He had flourished very much in his slave trade business. Then there is another person who is a great influence on the creation. That is Henry Morton Stanley. Henry Morton Stanley is one of the Scottish businessmen who actually figured principally in preparing Congo for Leopold's rule. Then the fifth influence is actually an acquaintance of Conrad, who was known as Georges Antoine Klein. Klein in German actually means little, in just the same manner as Kurtz means short, that I had just said earlier. And one more thing that is similar between Klein and Kurtz was that Klein was an employer of the Brussels-based trading company. He died shortly after being picked up on the steamboat that Conrad was piloting. Now, just assume that Conrad here plays the role of Charles Marlowe and Klein plays the role of Kurtz. It is in a similar manner that Kurtz dies in the novella. Here, Antoine Klein also dies when Conrad picks him up and gets into his steamboat which he was piloting. Then there is also a great influence upon certain short stories that Robert Louis Stevenson has written. Two short stories, that is The Beach of Falisa and The Ebb Tide. It talks about an anti-hero who actually manipulates circumstances, create a kind of assertive power that is generally seen by Kurtz's assertion of power to the native Congo people. The Stevenson's plot actually lines when writing The Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness novella was actually filmed in a later series, which was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It is based on a Vietnam War. The title is Apocalypse Now, which was written in 1979. We see that he's also seen as Colonel Kurtz, who is played by Marlon Brando. Now we will just look into the character of Kurtz in various literatures. The first work that we would be concentrating on is from a Canadian novelist who is called Timothy Finley. Timothy Finley is nicknamed as Stiffy, and in his novel Headhunter 1993, that was published in the year 1993. Inside that novel, we see that there are two characters from the Heart of Darkness, that is Kurtz and Marlowe, who escaped from the terrors over the city of Toronto, a psychiatric institution which is also known as Parkin Psychiatric Institute, which was notorious during that time. Marlowe happens to kill Kurtz in that particular novel, that is Headhunter by Timothy Finley. The next work where Kurtz is mentioned is in the poem The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot. Mr. Kurtz, he dead is the beginning line of the poem The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot. Then in the third work, that is Joseph Skowski's novel The Engineer of Human Souls. Here the Kurtz is seen as the epitome of exterminatory colonialism. So in this video we have discussed about the basis or the association that is done with the character called Kurtz in Heart of Darkness. How he had been portrayed, what is the basis for Kurtz's portrayal in Heart of Darkness, and how has he been portrayed in later works by various other different writers of different languages. I hope you like the video. Please do share and subscribe. Till then, we would be going on with the Heart of Darkness novel in detail in the next video. So stay tuned, learn with Danish.